Yo, what up? It's Brendan.
I'm Brandon.
And this is
the Brews and Bros podcast. Can you pass me the mic?
Passing the mic. Josh. All right, for real this time? There it is. All right, B. So, yada yada does it, you rat. And Pussy was like, "Oh!" And haunted Tony in his dreams. And Tony was like, yeah, all the way up to the very end. That's how that guy got a check and still was famous without having be in the show. But he was in the show.
He was in the show, but he wasn't part of the show, if that makes sense.
Nobody else had to see him. Kind of like when Steve Buscemi was in that show for a whole season. And
He wasn't even in there for a whole season. He was in there for like...
It was the first half of a season or something.
I think it was the first half for sure.
It was the 5th season, though.
Yeah.
And I mean the actual 5th season, not season 6A.
Not season part 6, part 1, divided by 2.
Yeah, what's the point of that? They should have just said 6 and 7.
So, from... Obviously, like, when that show was on TV, we weren't, like, quote-unquote old enough to, you know, maybe partake in something like that.
The internet was still around.
So my parents watched The Sopranos when it was on TV. And I think if I remember correctly, there was, like, something going on with, like... I don't exactly remember, but, like, they, like, needed to, like, take a break. Because they couldn't do, like, that whole season, like, in one go.
Like an actor had another thing he had to do.
Something like that, yeah. Like, it's not like Harry Potter where they were just like, oh,
money grab.
This is a money grab. Let's just do it this way.
Because at that point, they would have just called it season 7, right?
You would think. But yeah, like I said, I think it was just like a TV thing.
So dumb. How many seasons are Sopranos? Well, there's 6, but...
Well, there's technically only 6, but if you include the 6th season, there's actually 2 parts, so there's 7 seasons. No, there's just 6.
It's part A and part B. I see it. I got the HBO Max, you peons. What do you have? Nothing? You got the DVD box set? So you probably don't even know what episode's what. You don't even know when the season starts. You just keep watching.
I do have the box set.
Peon. No. So, because I had this idea with, like, binge watching in general. Mm-hmm. I love binge watching, but sometimes binge watching confuses me. So, I'll use Arrow as an example. I was binge watching it on CW because it was like all of the first 2 seasons were out. And so, as I'm watching it, there are these events that are happening, right? Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, this is cool. But then you're like, I had to get there so quick. And you're trying to remember, oh, the week has passed.
Yeah.
But for me, it's been like, because you're watching the seasons come and go. You're like, why is it snowing out?
Yeah.
What happened? Was this a whole part of the plot? What's going on? And then you're like, wait a minute, we've entered the next week. But for me, it's only been an hour.
Yeah, so I've always had, like, a weird thing, especially when it comes to, like, binge watching TV shows. I will either binge watch a TV show till completion, or I'll binge watch, like, 3/4 of a show, and then I'll never watch it again. So, like, I've done that literally with Supernatural, Shameless, what else?
Shameless, pretty good show.
So, and don't get me wrong, both of them are pretty good shows. But at the time that I was watching them, like, other things were happening in my life where I was like, okay, I can't dedicate the rest of my life to watching this fucking show.
Oh, no, I understand that.
And so, like, with Supernatural, so obviously pretty invested in the show, seeing as how I binge watched, I think, like, the first 6 seasons, like, within a month, because at the time, like, my hours were kind of bougie and all that, blah, blah, blah. And so, something happened. I ended up getting, like, super, super busy. And so I just wasn't able to watch it. I think for, like, I honest to God probably think it was, like, 3 days.
Golly.
Nothing crazy. So I just stopped watching it. I was like, well, I don't feel like watching, like, an hour-long show right now. Let me watch some YouTube videos. Next thing I know, 2 months go by, and all I've done is watch YouTube videos. And I'm like, oh, shit, I was watching a TV show. Let me go try to watch it.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I don't quite remember what happened. So let me go watch this past episode, kind of catch myself up In fact, I won't even skip the recap like I normally do. But like with Supernatural, for instance,
the damage has been done.
Like you have to like stay on top of it.
Like Heroes.
Yeah, like not in the sense that like it's as confusing as Heroes. There's so much happens, but it's just there's a lot of crap that gets crammed into these hour-long episodes.
Just some complex stuff.
And and you're like, wait a second, who's who again?
I've said it before. I'll say it again. Heroes is the one show where like if you miss one thing, you're the whole show. You're like, nah. Don't know what's going on anymore.
And with Shameless, the reason I stopped watching that, honest to God, wasn't the fact that I got busy. It's because I cannot stand the main character.
Which one?
Fiona. There were some things that happened that she just like there was just like her character development. I couldn't stand how they were like handling her character to the point where I literally hated seeing her character.
Well, then I got news for you. Keep watching.
So I tried rewatching it again. I probably made it through, I'd say maybe 6, maybe 7 episodes of the first season, and I was like enjoying it. I was like, wow. I was like, I can't believe that I put this show down.
But then it came back up.
I got busy again, and I haven't watched it since.
There was a show like that for me. It took me like 5 times of like trying to watch it to actually sit down and watch it, and I was like, I love this show. Sons of Anarchy.
So with me, I had obviously joined the military, and for those new listeners, I was in the military. So when I joined the military, the show was still on TV at the time, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were in the 5th season. And in the 5th season, I don't like spoiling things for anybody. If you haven't watched the show, recommend it. Super good.
Are you talking about?
Yes.
Think?
Yep. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're going to horny jail, bong.
I was like, I don't want to say it, but yeah, that.
And so I am in the schoolhouse. So I've probably only been in the Marine Corps maybe 4 months at this point. So I'm still trying to catch up to regular life things. And so being in the military, sometimes you're a little bit behind on stuff. No big deal.
Right.
And so I am walking by somebody's room, and they just happens to be able to watch the TV show. I don't know how, but they were able to watch the TV show, and bam, they spoiled this huge plot twist, this huge event.
And I remember you've seen, you're like, what the heck is that?
And I'm thinking to myself, did that really just happen? What's the point of even watching it now? So I didn't watch it for the longest time. Right. In fact, it was such a long fucking time. So I tried to watch it on my first deployment. Didn't happen. Didn't try to watch it on my second deployment because I was like, man, whatever. I am a year and some change away from getting out, and I finally decide maybe I should sit down and watch the fucking show.
Right.
So I do. For 2 months. And I get really fucking close to finishing it. Then I get busy again. Just how life works.
Right.
I'm now 4 months away from getting out of the military. Okay. And I said, why haven't I finished this show? I literally have 2 seasons left.
And it hit you.
And so I was like, okay. So I rewatched the entire 5th season. And had my moments. Had some doubts. I said, do I really want to finish this show? I hate a lot of these characters now. I don't know if this is what I want to do with my life. So I said, fuck it. I'm just going to push through and I'm going to finish this bitch. So I did. Let me tell you. Again, everybody listening, great show, fantastic.
The show ties up a lot of loose.
It really does. And it all happens pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's one of those where everything just kind of... it's like, well, things have to end eventually.
Yeah. So, we're going to end it.
We're going to end
in the next 2 episodes. And they're action-packed. They're great stories. All of that stuff that all of that stuff that you kind of expect when a show is drawing towards its end.
And then you're kind of just left like...
And then there's a weird couple of episodes where it's kind of like in this weird limbo where things seem to be going pretty good. You're like, oh man, this is awesome. Like, this is going to kind of have a happy ending. It does not have a happy ending. I remember being really disappointed in the ending because I was like...
You with The Sopranos?
The Sopranos, hands down, was the worst one.
Don't get me
even
wrong.
over Breaking Bad.
Don't get me wrong. Great show. The ending, it still makes sense. It's just kind of a letdown because reality is such a letdown.
And I think part of the reason why The Sopranos ended the way it did was because reality is such a letdown, and it's just like things just end. You could just be having dinner with your family, jamming out to Journey, and the next thing you know, screen's black.
Things just happen.
Who knows?
What's even worse is the fact that they tell you throughout that whole last season, essentially, sometimes life just hits you.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? It's like,
it never dawns on you. And you're like, oh man, last episode, this is going to be great. I wonder what's going to happen. Hope everything ends well. Bam. And it's like, what?
Well, it's funny because I already knew kind of how it ended. Mm-hmm. And by that I mean like that thing that everyone got mad about.
Yeah.
And so when it happened to me, I legitimately was like, what? Is my thing broken? And then then another screen hits, and then the credits roll, and I was like, oh, now I can relate to why they were mad and calling their cable provider.
I text my dad right after that happened.
You said, what?
Because obviously my parents watched it, but at this point in my life, I have no recollection of them watching the show live on television.
Of course not, because you're probably like asleep when it came.
And I was probably asleep or maybe at a friend's house. Who knows? But so I finally finished it. It was like 2013, and so obviously the show had been off the air for a long time.
Yeah, because what ended? 2006 or 7?
2006 or 7, I want to say. Yeah, that sounds about right. And so I remember texting my dad and being like, "What the fuck was that? Is like." How did they get away with that? Like I don't understand. Like I was genuinely frustrated.
They didn't let them get away with it, though. I tell
you.
And
I was like I didn't feel let down necessarily, but I felt let down.
You felt like you were robbed of like.
I felt the same way about that as I did at the end of God of War 3.
Yeah, that game. Yeah, that was like, what's he doing now? And then credits. You're like,
because I'm like. What the hell's going on?
I love how ambiguous this is, like very spoiler free, but like people should know what we're talking about. Like, oh yeah, man.
And it's like even after, so I beat God of War 3 when our freshman year of high school, so in 2009.
Yeah.
Or wait, no, it would have been 2010. Because I had to work the summer after our freshman year.
It would have been, yeah, because the way that our high school thing was set up is whatever year was ending was the year we were going into.
Yeah, so it was. I'm 100%. Yeah,
had to have been because I remember that prior to summer, me, you, and the big Q was outside talking about Billy Mays.
Yeah, and so
that's a whole nother thing for another time.
So at the time I was like, I'm gonna get a PlayStation 3, because. I have to figure it out because I had played the first 2 God of Wars with another buddy from high school.
And they're like, this is the conclusion.
And I said, dude, I got to figure it out. Like, I have to do this. Like, I have to play it. So I was like, I went out, got a job, saved up my money, bought a PlayStation 3, bought the game, bought a TV, and I played it. And I said, what? Okay, whatever. Showed that same buddy who hadn't played it the same ending. And he said the same thing. Years go by.
What?
Years go by. And I think I'm just watching some random YouTube video about God of War. And they're like, yeah, after the credits, it goes back to the scene at the end of the game. And he he's not there.
All the stuff in the sky is
and you're just like
into the earth.
And so I'm figuring this out years after the fact, and I said, what the hell are they going to do now? I can understand leaving things kind of, let's make this open to the audience and their interpretation. That's totally fine. But like now it's like, okay, what the shit?
Because that was weird because you can't really leave that open to the audience because given the circumstances of how everything is left, you're like, what is that?
Weird. What is he gonna do now? Like I'm really confused.
Is he gonna get bothered by that one lady?
So then and then you fast forward to 2015. You start hearing rumors. Oh, because obviously at that time, rumors about video games and movies, especially.
Oh yeah.
Coming out and you're getting psyched for everything. At the time, Fallout 4 had just come out. And that was a crazy time because I think I heard about Fallout 4.
Because nobody knew about it until they went on Twitter and they changed the picture to "Please stand by."
Yeah, and everyone was like, everything just went crazy. I just got goosebumps thinking about it.
I did too. Because I remember that time because you're sitting there and all of a sudden Facebook, Fallout updated their profile picture. What? "Please stand by."
And you said, "Oh no, there's no way."
And you're like, what does this mean? Everyone's like, whoa. And then all of a sudden they announcement like a few days from now. Then everyone goes, announcement happens, pre-order available, game comes out. Same month. Everyone went, what?
And that was the one. Because I remember, so that was after my first deployment. And we had been back for, a couple of months. And because at the time, Battlefront came out the week before Fallout 4 did. And so, me and my roommate Rubio, as everybody knows.
Hi, Rubio.
We're super, super excited for Battlefront.
Right.
We played Battlefront for the first 2 days. Game's kind of okay. It's a little weird, a little clunky. No worries, just came out. I'm sure they'll fix it.
Of course.
Then Fallout 4 comes out. Get the fuck out of town, Battlefront. I'm playing fucking Fallout 4. And we played that game religiously.
Just so fun.
And then fast forward a little bit more. And I'm finally out of the military. You're living at my house. Everything's going great. Bam, they announced God of War. And they said, and I'm like, yo, hell yes, let's go. Because I remember they announced it, and I didn't have a PlayStation at the time because I had sold it. They announced it, and I said, I'm going to get a PlayStation 4 preemptively, so when it does come out, I have something to play it on. And holy shit, that game was incredible. Although,
the weird thing about it is, it starts, you're playing it, and then throughout the whole thing, you're like, so what happened at the end of the third game? You're still asking.
Yeah.
You're like, he's got that thing still there, but how did he get here? And they just say, you just know what happened. Like, what happened?
And then, they kind of go into it, like, a little bit. I think they're leaving it as a little bit of a plot thing for the next one to kind of maybe give a little bit more backstory. At least that's the hope. That's what I'm hoping.
And I might be the only person who's like, so, great, I love the game, but,
what happened?
What? You didn't answer anything. You just answered.
Did you travel by plane, boat, train?
Did he, enter a new dimension? Did he go forward in time?
And that's what I was thinking. I was like, okay, maybe there's some weird explanation for this where at the end of the third one, him doing that thing magically transports him somewhere else.
And it maybe did.
It could be. Who knows?
Because they got that weird crank machine in the new one.
Yeah,
but it's just weird because they all know about those people.
But, they had no idea about these people. Exactly. So it's like, who's lying to who? Am I being lied to as the player?
And then
does nobody know who anybody is? This guy's a fraud? That's not Kratos.
And there's that whole point where just the weird little hints and everything where, he grabbing the pottery and he exists in their lore on the pottery.
Yeah, it's why did they try to
stop him? His son's like,
So
what's that? And he just drops it.
You know.
Just mind your business. Like, he didn't see it. This kid probably was like, whoa.
And he's like, that was kind of weird. He was staring at that pot for a long time.
And then he gives his son
dropped it.
Some like alcohol. It's like, tastes like a raw egg. And Kratos like, ah. And then Kratos goes, ah. Yeah. But no, like, because remember when it was called Infinity War Part 1? But now I think it's just called Infinity War because they changed the Endgame. At the end of that movie, people were mad. and you're like, it says Part 1. Like, what do you...
Like, so for me, as far as the Marvel movies are concerned, pretty much I like the majority of them. There's still some that, to this day, I have never watched.
What are you, Martin Scorsese?
I've never watched Ant-Man. I've never watched Ant-Man and the Wasp. I did not like Iron Man 2 or 3.
It's weird. 2 and 3 were just not, as
They seemed like
good.
Weird offshoots because they were like, we just need to keep making money.
I think there was like we need to tell some kind of a story to kind of progress the other characters.
Yeah, and
that's what a lot of them do.
And that, you know, and that's totally fine. No big deal. Then the first Avengers movie comes out, pretty good. And then Age of Ultron comes out, pretty good. And then all of a sudden, they start hyping up Infinity War even more. And I'm like, dude, let's go. And I was more excited for Infinity War than I was for Endgame. Purely on the fact that it's like, I kind of know how Endgame's going to end, minus a couple of details here and there.
But you know, Infinity War is going to have some crazy stuff.
But you have no idea what's going to happen in Infinity War. You literally have zero fucking clue.
She's like, let's do part 2. So you're like, oh, maybe they'll figure something out. No, sir. That movie ended on a downer. Homeboy said, should have aimed for the head.
And then, bam.
Next thing you know, she's like... And,
like... It's one of those things. Like, I can get why people would want to be excited for the end of something as big as the Marvel Universe, especially because it lasted 10 years. Whereas, you know, say a show can maybe only last a couple of years.
Sometimes even longer.
Or not even.
You know? Yeah, or not even, but sometimes even longer. And with the show, though, they have more stuff that they can do, like, developmental. Because if you think about, like, a movie, even if they make sequels and stuff, they have to tell, like, a full story to get you totally invested within this little window of time. A TV show can expand.
Years.
Like, they can have one whole episode dedicated to one guy, another episode dedicated to another guy, rather than have a full movie with all these characters fleshed out to what you can see.
And that makes sense. And like for me, my big thing was that it was like, I don't understand why people don't want... And, like, okay, the way Endgame ended, I can see why they didn't want to have Endgame spoiled. But at the end of the day, it's like, you know that Thanos is going to be beat. It's not like he just exists.
Sorry, spoiler it.
And they were like, oh, hey, by the way, you know, we came to an agreement, like, hey, don't fuck with Earth. We don't care about these other people. Just don't mess with us. And he was like, well, all right, I guess. But I'll be watching you. But at the end of the day, it's like, you have to understand that, like, it's going to end. And did people like the ending of Endgame? Probably. I'd say the general consensus is, like, people pretty much liked the ending. It was a little downer.
But I think, like, the majority of people really were like, that's a pretty satisfying...
Like, that makes sense. It was satisfying.
It had its sad moments, but it was still somehow satisfying.
Whereas you take The Sopranos or God of War 3 or any other show that ends...
Or Dexter.
So...
Which is having a revival.
Dexter, for me, you know, didn't exactly... That wasn't a show for me that I really vibed with.
You don't like the idea of a guy killing serial killers?
For me, it wasn't even that. It was like, the show seemed to try really hard to... It felt like it was overly graphic. Like, I know that sounds really dumb, but, like, there's a point where, like, a movie is, like... Or, like, a TV show... we'll go back to The Sopranos. So, that show obviously had its graphic moments. You know, people are getting killed.
That one scene where that lady is, like, screaming, crawling naked, and the guy was like, you should have just kept your mouth shut.
You can't be doing these things. Or, you know, you're seeing someone get beat up, or, you know, whatever.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But Dexter, it's like...
a whole new level.
It's like, it was like Spartacus, because I think Spartacus was on Starz.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Dexter was a Showtime show.
Because it had Manu Bennett in it. Australian or a New Zealand guy. He played Deathstroke in Arrow. Oh, yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And so, Spartacus, for those of who have not watched it,
not the original old school one.
Like, I'm talking about I'm talking about the TV show Spartacus. I think it was 2 seasons. That show, it was just a really graphic porno.
Yeah, it was just like, sex and violence.
It's like, yeah, those things sell, and that's probably what they did back then, not doubting that at all. But at the same time, it's like...
Was there a story there?
Was there an actual story?
Or did I miss... Hello, sir, can I have some story with my porn, please?
And it's like, no, this ain't Naughty America, pal.
Bro, this is Stuz.
And then to take that back to Dexter, for me at least, for me personally, I feel like Dexter was that same way, where it was just, it was too weird. It seemed, for me at least, it's probably a very unpopular opinion, and I do not give a shit. But it just, the show tried too hard to, like, maintain this level of, like, weird graphicness. Like, yes, there was a story there, and you have to, you know, deal with his mental illness, and him being like, oh, hey, by the way, I like to kill people because my dad said I shouldn't do that. And so I don't listen to my dad, so I'm going to do it anyway.
But I'm only killing the bad guys. So
but
it's like, not as bad.
Yeah, you know, and he obviously has that anti-hero trope, and it's like, well, he's doing the right thing, but he's not going about it the right way.
The Punisher handled that pretty well, as far as I'm concerned, but that's just because I like that show.
But that's different, though, because there's an actual fucking story that makes sense. It's a cohesive story that you're like, you feel attached to someone more like the Punisher, whereas, like, anybody who would be put in that situation would feel the same way. They'd be like, oh yeah, I'd want to take people out.
Because
like,
he lost his family.
Whereas this guy is just a fucking wackadoo who just likes killing people.
And finds an excuse to do it to the bad guys.
Yeah, he's like, well,
whereas
you know.
Frank Castle's cleaning up the streets.
Because nobody else will.
That's what I'm saying. Like, Daredevil Season 2, when they introduced him, every time he was on the screen, stole the role. Really just clever stuff, right? But there's one scene in particular that really sells it. And I don't know if it's in Season 1 of Punisher or Season 2 of Daredevil where he's in it. I'm pretty sure it's Season 2 of Daredevil. But he goes to this little pawn shop, and he's trying to find something. Mm-hmm. And the store clerk was like, well, you know, I don't really have that, you know. And as he's getting ready to leave, he's like, but I might have something else you're interested in. Uh-huh. And so Frank's like, what? And so the guy pretty much tells him, oh, you know, it's child porn. And so Frank goes like this and nods his head, goes to the front door, locks it, swaps the sign to closed, and he grabs a baseball bat and he puts it around his shoulder. And then he starts walking back, smiling. And the guy's like, haha, I knew you'd be into it, buddy. He said, yeah, where is it? And the guy turns around, and Frank just clocks him with the baseball bat. And you just see a silhouette in the back of him just, doosh, 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 doosh. And you're like, yeah! And you're cheering for him because you're like, that's sicko. You know?
Yeah, but, like, for me...
But so, that's different than, like, Daredevil, who's just... Or, I'm sorry, Dexter, who's just...
He's just like, well, I'll kill people because, you know, I maybe killed a cat when I was 8. And my dad found out.
You Jeffrey Dahmer, motherfucker.
Yeah, and it's like... I can see why people would think that is an interesting concept. Like, okay, he's doing something that, you know, the police won't do. And he's taking bad people out and blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But it's like... I don't know, like... His backstory doesn't seem really convincing. It's like, okay, I took someone who's a serial killer, and instead of, I don't know, putting them into an institution where they probably belong, I'm just going to let them grow up and hope and pray that they be normal. And then he's not fucking normal because he goes out and he fucking kills people.
Well, they're reviving it because the ending was booty, and so they're doing like a little mini-series, little mini-season thing that's going to pretty much like correct that and just kind of give it better closure. So all you single ladies that like your serial killers, here's your opportunity for some Dexter.
It's funny. So you know that guy who lived out here who killed his wife and his kids? He has that Netflix show?
I'm going to let you on some insider knowledge. I know who you're talking about, but there seems to be a reoccurring theme of the Colorado man. But yeah, you're talking about Chris Watts, the scumbag. So,
obviously, for those of you who don't know, Chris Watts killed his wife and he had the one daughter, right? Or was it 2?
So, he killed his pregnant wife and his 2 young kids.
Okay, yeah, so he kills...
And he put them in tar or something.
Yeah, so he kills his family. There's a whole huge investigation, obviously, here in Colorado. It's all over the news for the longest time. Then
recently
it kind of
got big again because of Netflix.
And then, it kind of dies off for a little bit because, they're they don't really have the leads that they're looking for. Then all of a sudden, bam, new evidence shows up and bam, they get this motherfucker. So he goes to jail for sure, 100%, right to jail.
You're going through regular jail. Bonk.
And so Netflix being Netflix, trying to make money, they say, let's make a documentary about this guy. Why? Because white women from the ages of 18 to old love serial killer drama, right? They just love it. They can't get enough of it.
They love Ted Bundy so much.
So this Netflix show,
Yeah.
boom, he's all of a sudden back in the mainstream. I saw this post probably maybe about 2 or 3 weeks ago that he's been receiving like love letters, girls who are like, let me marry you, all of this. Why? Because women are fucking weird.
That's always been happening too. Charles Manson.
Charles Manson's a great example. Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, all of these weird fucking guys.
I got some bad news for you ladies about Dahmer, but
You know.
he was gay
Sorry.
and he got killed in prison, got dinked over the head with a pipe.
And so, you know, people are like, I don't understand it. Like, this is disgusting, and like, this is what happens when you glorify serial killers. And it's like, but it's you! You're the one!
And here's the thing, they're not glorifying the serial killer anyway. They were like, here's a documentary of what happened. And then you women, and probably some guys, I don't know, I'm not trying to be sexist, but
No,
again,
yeah.
the majority of the women who were like, hey.
You say, wow, that's crazy. You killed your whole family. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Like, I have never in my life heard of some guy sending a letter to Casey Anthony and being like, can we get married?
Well, that's happened though.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it hasn't happened. It just doesn't seem to be as prevalent
It's because
with female serial killers.
it doesn't happen as often, I would imagine. Especially with someone who's not convicted.
Quote unquote convicted, even though, you know, everybody kind of knows.
We'll use Jodi Arias as an example. They call her the most beautiful killer, right? Because she, like, killed her boyfriend. It's really crazy how that happened. She, like, has sex with him, and they're taking Polaroid photos. This is the scariest thing. I'm going to show you something really terrifying,
Oh,
okay?
no. Oh, no.
Hold on.
Oh, no.
Jodi
Don't.
Arias' boyfriend, Travis, last photo.
I don't want this.
So, as he's taking the little bath, right, getting cleaned up after it, she brings the Polaroid in, right? And this is literally, because they have timestamps on the photos, seconds before she starts massacring this boy's body. The camera starts dropping and taking photos the whole time, too. So you can kind of see his body and see things just like crazy. This is the last photo of him, seconds before he gets stabbed and his throat slit from ear to ear.
Oh, no.
Oh, but
Yo, I do not like that.
that's the face of someone who knows.
Yo, I don't like that at all, dude.
So they said that in this photo, what's pretty much happening is this is when he's like looking at her and he knows something's up because she obviously has the knife by this point. They're both naked. And that's the last photo, bro.
I don't like that at all. No, thank you.
You can also find Jodi Arias' butthole, bro.
What the hell? Oh my god. But like so those like last known pictures of people always terrifying. Like it's kind of like weirdly, like obviously as a human, like you're like just naturally intrigued by stuff like that. You're like, okay, like this is interesting. I kind of want to know the backstory, but I do not, and I will not ever understand again how it is that people just find ways to be like, how is it that you're out here, you know, glorifying serial killers and you're out here trying to talk to them and yada yada yada, when those same people are watching Murder, She Wrote every fucking day because they're complaining about their lives.
So, I kind of found this. This is what I was talking about. So, these are photos that span from 5/22/24 to 5/33/32. It's pictures of him in the shower. And then when you get all the way down to the last one of him, like the last photo of him, and then get down, that's when, like, he's getting stabbed and killed. The rest of those are.
Golly.
As the camera's just snapping photos, see?
Oh my gosh, dude! I just like.
Yeah, see right here. See, 5:29:20. Then the stabbing commences. 5:30:30. Not even a full minute.
Jesus, could you imagine?
Just getting stabbed in the back?
No, let's just say, obviously Tinder didn't exist back then, but let's just say you go on a Tinder date, right? Everything seems to be going great. You guys go to dinner. You guys catch a movie. You're doing all sorts of regular date things. Yeah. You're having a great time. She goes, why don't we go back to my place, have a little fun for the rest of the night? You know, kind of, you know, saying, hey, come on over. Let's, you know, stay the night. I'm having a great time. I want to keep this going.
Right.
Everything's going great. You commence to the sexy times. She pulls something out and she goes, let's document this. And you're like, what do you mean? Just out of curiosity. And she goes, I got this cool little camera. Mm-hmm. Bought it at I was at the flea market last weekend. And I saw this really cool little camera. And I just said, I have to have it. You know, I took a couple of test pictures while I was there. Works great. And I just think that this would be a really fun moment to document. Because I'm having a great time. Mm-hmm. So you say, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Very nice.
Very nice, very nice. Yes, yes, yes. And so, you know, you start taking pictures. You're like, you know, oh, hey, let me see this. And she's like, let me see that. And, you know, blah, blah, blah. Just going back and forth.
Talk about the nookie.
Night ends. Everything's going great. You say, all right, well, I'm going to go into the bathroom. I'm going to get cleaned up. You're just minding your business in the shower. Side note, this is why I always lock the fucking door. I'm not shitting. I always lock the fucking door. Why?
I've seen Psycho.
I just have a fear of someone barging in on the on me when I'm in the bathroom. Anyway,
just taking a duke.
Yeah. I'm trying to just do my own thing in the shower.
Right.
I'm just trying to take a shower. Fucking leave me alone. And I'm going to ensure that you leave me alone by locking the door.
Yeah.
I'm about to make this a little bit weirder here in a second.
Oh, great.
So, let's just say you're at her house. For some reason, her bathroom doesn't have a lock. Okay, no big deal. I'm a little sketched out. Maybe I should just wait till I go home, but I'm already in here, so I don't want to be weird.
You got the
I could just turn the shower on, let it run for a couple of minutes, splash some, get my hair wet, whatever. Then all of a sudden, you just hear her, hey, blah, blah, blah. She's just trying to talk to you. Okay, think you're just having a conversation. You're like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm just taking pictures.
Commemorating this beautiful moment.
And then she just pulls a fucking knife out. And you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. What you doing there? And then you just wham, wham, wham. You're just getting fucking murdered to death. Right? Get the fuck out of town. Anyway, what I thought of, because obviously the way my mind works, it always goes to worst case scenarios. I think this would be far more creepy than someone just coming into the bathroom and taking a picture of me and then fucking killing me. Is if I was able to lock the door. You know how sometimes people knock on the door?
Oh.
Well, just be like, oh yeah, I'll be out in a second.
And no reply?
Nothing. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about this because I could not imagine being in this fucking situation, especially if it was not at my house.
Oh.
If it was at my house, it'd be a little bit worse, but being at like a complete stranger's house, double worse.
Especially at night.
Especially at night. And you're like, nah, I'll be out in a second. Hold on. And you're like, okay, stop. Like, I'm almost out. Like, here, I'll just hop out right now.
And then he goes...
And you're like, no, stop that. And then it's like, boom, 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 jiggling the door. And you're like freaking out at this point, obviously, because I'm freaking out just telling the story. And you're like trying to get out of the fucking shower. I'm at least going to put my pants on.
Exactly.
At a bare minimum.
I'm not going to be found naked.
At a bare minimum, I'm putting my pants on. So then, it starts banging on the door, like really violently, like that police knock. That
to where the lock's there, but the door, like the little thing is going like...
Yeah, like you can kind of see like the corner of the door kind of flexing a little bit
like
too
someone's
much.
eye could poke through and see the mirror.
And you're just banging.
If you look at the mirror, you'll make eye contact with someone.
You're just banging on the door, jiggling the lock.
Pushing.
And then all of a sudden, just bam, it just stops. You get out of the shower. I would grab something, probably a toothbrush or something, maybe something a little bit harder.
Grab a teepee roll.
Don't come near me, bitch.
Grab the top of the porcelain toilet.
That's a great weapon, by the way, boys. Gentlemen, for those of you who are listening, if you're going to get destroyed and killed at a Tinder date's house, always go for the top of the toilet.
Yeah, dude.
Or at a bare minimum,
Solid.
rip the seat off.
Yeah, but that's just lighter, but it's a little heavier. But if you get the top of the toilet, that's so sturdy, bro. It might break if you crack him in the head.
But until you get cracked over the head with the top of a toilet, you're going
at
down.
Full speed. I don't care how strong you are.
You're going down. You're going down.
And if you're not going down, you're at least going to be dazed enough for me to get out.
Like, I'm pushing you out of the way. Like, I will gladly take a knife to the torso if it means that I can get out of there.
I might get lucky, clock you one. You drop the knife, I take it, I get one shot in your back, and then I run.
I will nail you to the floor via hand, knife through the hand into the floor.
That's somewhat creepier to me. Is like you do catch them and then you stab them, and then you're like, "What am I doing? Oh my god!" Oh, and they're like, "Ah!" And you're just standing there like, "Stop talking."
So I read this story on Facebook. This was a long time ago.
Jesus.
About this guy who he's like, some people would like to say that people who kill people are already naturally inherently evil or this, that, or the other, and that there's always some kind of motive for murder, that there's never really, it doesn't seem to be that there's necessarily a random act of violence. Like, it might seem random to other people, because there's no correlation, there's no connection. Like
the situation stuff, it might just be a random time or
yeah,
event, but
there's always there's always something that, like, the person who is committing a murder probably has thought about for some time. Well, so this guy, he's like, so I start this job at like a construction company, and I work there for a couple of months. Well, I move up in this construction company to the point where I have to drive around a lot. And they give me, he was like, it's kind of a smaller business, so it's just a couple of us who work there. But I was in charge of the company credit card when we would go out to job sites, for gas, materials, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And I was partnered up with this guy who had worked there for a really long time. And so him and I, just out of working together, kind of get to know each other, kind of become friends. He's a little strange, but, everybody's a little strange, so, I don't think too much of it, blah, blah, blah. Right. So he goes on to keep telling this little story. Where he's like, well, fast forward X amount of time, and I'm at this guy's house, like, in his apartment. And, we're just kind of talking or whatever, and, he's like, I have the company credit card on me, like, at all times, just because, I'm in charge of it, and, for me, if I don't have it on me, I don't want it to get stolen, and I don't want to be responsible for that. So I just have it on me all the time. Well, I'm at this guy's apartment, and he's like, all of a sudden, I'm in the kitchen, and I asked him if he wanted a beer. He's like, yeah, sure. So I'm, like, bent over in the fridge, grabbing a beer, and he's like, I feel all of a sudden what it feels like is someone's hitting me in the back. And he's like, little do I know, I'm being fucking stabbed. Because he's like, you don't really feel like a knife going into you necessarily. And so he's like, the force of it just felt like he was like, just tapping on my back. And so I get up, and then all of a sudden I see him with this bloody knife in my hand, and then things start to kind of click. And then he's like in this battle, literally for his life. And he's like, what? At this point, it's my life over this guy's. Like, I'm not doing this.
At that point, as gross as it is, you're just like, oh, you
and
son of a...
So he, he's trying to wrestle the knife away from this guy, and so he's like, well, it's my life or my hand. I'd rather be alive. And so he's like, I grab the blade of the knife, like, and I just, like, squeeze it, trying to get it so he can't pull it away. But, like, my hand's obviously getting cut up, so it's starting to slip because of all this blood. And we start slipping all over the floor and stuff because of all the blood that I'm losing from my back. And I'm trying to wrestle the knife away. Finally, I get away from him, and, like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, turns out the guy was just jealous that I had the company credit card. And that's all he wanted. He was upset that I had the company credit card, and he just planned on killing me. I don't know for how long, but that was the day that he decided to finally act on, him trying to kill me just to get a company credit card.
Moral of the story, no new friends.
No new friends.
You got enough, bro.
Keep your circle small.
Yeah, bro.
Honestly, it's worked for me for the last, I don't know, 12 fucking years.
I've been okay. Hey, Brittany, you want to hang out? Well, no, because you might be jealous that I got a Discover card.
Hey, I'm your number one fan of the Brews and Bros podcast. Can I be your new friend? Nope. Sorry.
You can buy some merch.
I appreciate that you're a fan. Keep listening. But if I ever see you again, we might have a problem.
Yeah, because you might try to stab me.
Because you might try to stab me because I got an American Express in my back pocket.
That's why wherever we go, we got to go somewhere together. I'll keep, like, the melee options. You'll keep the artillery on you. That way we have it covered.
Why do I see you carrying around like one of those like medieval flails, like with it's like the stick with the chain and the ball, and you're just like, stay away from my friends?
Because I would, bro. Someone like they hold something like a knife to you and be like, huh, and then all of a sudden, oh, my hand. Is that a chain mace? Oh. Yeah, you better be lucky that's all you'll get.
It's jail time for you, nerd. Bonk.
Bonk. Oh no, I crushed his skull in. Didn't mean to.
Don't worry, self-defense, B.
It was your life or his. I chose the latter.
But it's one of those weird things that it's like, obviously you don't know people. I would assume that if you tried to kill me, you probably would have done it by now. Ain't nobody playing the 20+ year game. Nobody.
No, that's too much. Like, what's the reason to kill you?
That's too much time. Like, even if, like, I could see, like, maybe certain circumstances, you're friends with someone for maybe a couple of years, and they sleep with your girlfriend. Me personally, I wouldn't go as far as to maybe kill the guy, because I'm not trying to spend the rest of my life in prison. But at the same time, like, it's not. I can't change it. I ditch those two individuals and I'm out.
I think the only way I could kill my friend is
if they became a drug peddling DJ.
Is if they was a rat. No, I'm kidding. I don't think because I'm not doing anything that deserves ratting.
Yeah.
But I would imagine it would be, let's say, you take up heroin.
Yeah.
And we're driving in the snow, and you crash the car.
You gonna choke me out?
And you look me in the eye and tell me that if they get you, it's over. I will have to put my fingers on your nose.
Don't take me out like that. Any other way, you could take me out like
You'd
his
be
wife.
high, you wouldn't know.
You could take me out like his wife. Take me to the woods. That way I know it's coming. Or take me out like that Russian guy.
Or the one guy. What you want to drink?
Obviously,
you don't want something more sugary?
So we had talked about that before I had gotten to that episode.
Oh, when you rewatched it.
When I was rewatching it. And so, I'm
sad.
It's just...
Because I feel bad for him.
I feel bad for him, but at the same time, I get where Tony's coming from. Because obviously, that's Tony's life.
And you could tell Tony didn't do it for, like, he wasn't getting no pleasure out of it.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, whoop, another one bites the dust. He was like...
He's like, do I really want to do this right now?
He even thought about it.
He was like, should I be the one that does this? I got other people who said we'll do this. But I feel like this is my responsibility. I'm the leader. I'm the boss. I gotta do this.
But it was so sad when he asks him, well, you want something to drink? And he's like, he didn't have to say that last part. Well, I just thought you would have wanted something more sugary since it's the last thing you're gonna fucking drink.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's shows or movies or forms of media where obviously you are rooting for someone who is definitely not a hero. Frank Castle, Tony Soprano,
Spike.
Because
he outlaw.
He's technically an outlaw, but he's also a bounty hunter. It's a weird, convoluted, best anime of all time as far as I'm concerned.
He's a wanted man.
And there's a lot of things that I feel go into wanting an anti-hero to exist, because I feel like in anti-hero it's like, okay, they have no morals, they're this, they're that, but in reality I think it's like that weird sense of morality where it's like, if I was in that, like we always say, if I had superpowers, I would be Superman. I think he'd probably be more like a Homelander, you appear good, but in reality, you're probably a scumbag.
Or even worse, you might actually just be a total
Like,
diva.
you might actually just be an asshole.
I know some of you people personally to know better. I would help the world. Yeah, by, like, being a racist.
Would you actually help the world? Because you've never helped me in any way.
Because I honestly do feel like if I did have superpowers, I think I would be a good guy.
I feel like, and that's like the weird thing. Is like I feel like I would kind of have days where I wanted to be good, but then there would probably be other days where it's like, dude, I had a shitty fucking day at work. That guy's about to get it.
But that's the other thing is I don't think I'd have to actually work if I had the powers that I would
It
think
would
of.
depend on what powers you had, though, because you have to think if you say had, we'll use Homelander as an example. If you had Homelander's powers, nobody's stopping. Nobody.
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, if I had those powers, I would be a good guy because I wouldn't have to worry about shit. Because, check this out. I would go deep underground somewhere, find where the reserve is, go up, get, like, just gold, and just take as much gold as I need, and then figure it out, sell it, make a lot of money, and just be content. And then, let's say I see something stupid, like, hey, you robbing that lady. But then again, it's my selfish need. I'd have to be evil first. I'd have to rob a bank.
Well, that's the thing. You can't rob a bank. You can't. It's not like it's weird that you like people think that you can like rob things from the earth. Be like, you stole from me, and it's like, what are you talking about? That is dirt. That is everywhere. What happens if your dirt blows onto my plot of land? Is it my dirt now?
Man, that's my dirt.
Or is it still your dirt? Obviously, a windstorm's not going to carry an entire gold reserve from your lands to my lands.
That's what I'm saying.
But if I dig underground, how the fuck are you going to know?
Well, and that's the other thing is that whole dirt thing. I think it depends on what the material is. Because if, like, you tree over someone's thing, it's like, hey, get your tree off of here.
I think that's a different thing, though, because I think that's like a weird, like, that's a city code thing.
Well, I mean, like, let's say this. Your leaves fly off, right?
Yeah.
If those are your leaves, you better get them. You know, that guy ain't dealing with it. But let's say you did have a gold brick and somehow it fell from somewhere in your lawn or whatever and made it to the guy's yard. That's his now. See what I'm saying? It's a weird...
But that's what I'm saying. No one's counting particulates of dirt. And if you don't know that something's underneath your lawn, that's not my fucking problem. Like, think about how many prospectors during the gold rush were probably just shot. Why? Because they're probably far enough away from town. They're probably far enough away from the little big community of miners and prospectors out there. And they say, "Hey, man, what's your name?" I was just, I'm new to the area.
Yeah, I'm Jebediah.
Well, all right, Jebediah. Nice to meet you. My name's, Jimmy Johnson or whatever. I just came here from Missouri. Me and my family's down there. I'm just trying to find something a little, blah, blah, blah. Have you had any luck in this area? I was thinking of maybe just going up a little bit past you. I'm trying to, see if you've seen anything up here. And he's like, well, I was down there, and then, and then he turns his head and he's like, I was going to go, bam, right in the back. He's dead.
Let's see what you had on. You ain't have nothing, you hillbilly.
And then he just buries him. Moves up.
Just keeps waiting.
It's like...
That's like in Red Dead, though. Have you found any gold miners in Red Dead?
Like a couple, yeah.
And some of them are like nice and they're just like chilling, like you can have whatever's left. But then there's some that are like, you don't say hi to me, and you're like, yeah, I'll let you to it. And like, you best be moving on. And
those people always make me mad. I'm like, why are you squaring up? Like, I'm literally walking away.
Or like, I'm watching with you. I'm trying to enjoy the experience. And then if you shoot them, you lose the
But it was so, like, it's funny. So in Red Dead, obviously, you can just like roll up like on a random camp of people.
Right.
Sometimes they're nice. Sometimes they're like, "What are you doing?"
The majority of the time, they're like, "Hey, get out of here!"
Like, what are you? It makes sense. Like at first, when I first played it, I was like, "Why are these people so fucking dumb? Like, why are they such assholes?" I'm kind of confused. I don't fucking get it. And I'm like, this has got to fucking stop. Like, I really don't understand why they're doing this. But then I started to think about it, and I was like, if I was camping out in the middle of the woods, and some rando guy comes hauling ass on a horse right towards my camp, jumps off, and then just stares at me, I might have a little bit of an issue. I might be like, Do you need some help, buddy? Are you okay? And then he pushes X to antagonize, and he's like, I don't like the way you look. And then he just pulls his double barrel out, and I'm like, what are you doing, pal? Yeah. Don't do that.
Well, and the thing that gets me too, like in Red Dead like that, is then I think about my experience when like someone random walks up to the camp that I'm at, that I set up, and then they'll ask you, "Would you mind if I warm my bones by the fire?"
Yeah, I fucking mind.
But sometimes I'm like, "Oh, sure," and they'll have like an actual conversation, talk to you about stuff. But then there's other times where it's like some a-hole who's like, "You come around these parts again, I'll kill." I'm like, "No, I ain't gonna let you get the chance, stupid." I got it backwards, but.
But it's like, it's the same concept where it's like Arthur Morgan, probably an anti-hero. That game was fucking wild. The way that game ended, terribly sad, as far as I'm concerned.
Until you get to the very, very end.
Until you get to the very, very end, then it's a little bit happier, and I think they probably did that just to kind of soothe you.
It's supposed to soothe you and ease you into the really sad ending of the first game.
Yeah, and, you know, and so, for me, I think, obviously, anti-heroes have their place. Dexter, to me, is not an anti-hero because he's not actually a hero.
Uh-huh.
Because he doesn't just, like, obviously, his thing is he's like, oh, let me lure them in, give them a false sense of security, let me think that I'm their friend, yada, 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 bam, then I'll fucking kill them.
Right.
That's weird. Whereas Frank Castle just being like, oh, you know that bald guy who runs all the crime families in town? Stab.
There's a one movie, one of the Punisher movies, it's called Warzone.
That movie.
When all the lights cut out, and he's on the chandelier, and they're like, huh? And he just spins around the room. And you're like, what? Frank has always go in. He's like, alright, so here's my plan of attack. Yeah? Attack.
Yeah, it's like I said, for me, Dexter is too weird. Obviously, Tony Soprano's an anti-hero in the way that you know that he's a criminal, but you can be sympathetic towards him because he does have like a regular life,
like he has a family,
like outside of being a criminal.
And he's not the best dad or best husband
by any stretch of the imagination.
But he do care about his family. He makes sure that they always taken care of.
Always. He said, "Look, if I go away, you know you're gonna be taken care of."
And what's he want to do? He wants to watch The Godfather and eat his ice cream on his couch
and watch the History Channel. That's all he wants to do at the end of the day.
Watch the news. Ask people if they're terrorists, what they know about the war. Yeah, you see what they doing with them cargo ships out there? they was making chemical weapons or something, yeah? And they're like, Don, chill out. And he's like, tell me something, Christopher. Who the fuck asked you? Jeez, Don. Yeah. And then Polly go, I'm on your side, T.
He's like, T, are you seeing this right now?
I'm on your side. Christopher got to go. And he's like, oh my God, stop talking. And then Silvio's like, what are you going to do? And then Pussy, well, he's dead.
He's gone.
He's in Tony's head saying, well,
maybe you shouldn't have killed me.
And then there's the one that's his brother-in-law who's like, I like trains.
Well, I'd say with that being said, looking at the time.
If you watch that show, it has a lot more context that I like trains.
That being said, I think it's probably a good time to end the episode for this week.
We never even introduced ourselves.
I was thinking about that at the 4-minute mark, and I was like, I'll bring it up soon. Next thing I know, it's at the 6-minute mark, and then I was like, okay, it's 22 minutes in. It's too late now.
Brendan and Brandon.
We're here, Brews and Bros Podcast. Subscribe, follow us. Social media links down below. Lost a follower on Spotify. What kind of disrespect is that? Make sure you share. Follow us, whatever. That's all I got. What you got?
I'm just thinking about how like we have a whole intro song that already introduces who we are. But
I'll talk to you about that once this is done.
Uh-oh.
It's not a bad thing.
Uh-oh. But the only other thing that I can think of is if you don't follow us, in the words of Jeffrey Dahmer, well, that's when the nightmare became a reality.